A two-dimensional figure exists on a plane. Well, that just simply means that it's flat. You know, you hear of a 3D movie, which means it feels like it comes out at you. You can see all the sides. So a 2D or a two-dimensional is simply flat. A closed two-dimensional figure made up of three or more straight lines is called a polygon. And a four-sided polygon is a quadrilateral. When I look at the word quadrilateral, I see the quad portion, that prefix quad, and quad means four. So a four-sided polygon is a quadrilateral, and two or more quadrilaterals are congruent if they have the same size and shape. Same size and shape means congruent. And all of their related parts are also congruent. So very simply, quadrilaterals are any polygon with four sides and four angles. And here are the most common quadrilaterals. Of course, we see the square. And on a square, all the sides are the same length, and they have four right angles. And if you'll remember, a right angle is designated by the little box. And then on a square, all the sides are the same. Next, we have a rhombus. Now, a rhombus has two pairs of parallel sides. That means this side and this side would be parallel, and then the top and the bottom would be parallel. All the sides are the same length. But this time we have two acute angles, that means less than 90 degrees, and then two obtuse angles, more than 90 degrees. And if you think about it, a rhombus, since it has all sides of their same length, opposite sides are parallel. So really the only difference between that square and the rhombus are the angles, and that you've got obtuse and acute angles. Next, I have the rectangle. On the rectangle, the opposite sides are parallel, and the opposite sides are the same length, meaning this side and this side are the same length, and then the top and the bottom are the same length. And on a rectangle, I see four right angles. Beside that, we have the parallelogram. Now, on the parallelogram, opposite sides are parallel, but this time I have two acute angles and then two obtuse angles. And finally, we have the trapezoid. Now, a trapezoid only has one pair of parallel sides, and in this case, I see the top and the bottom are parallel. This side and this side are not parallel, because if I were to extend that line on up and this side on up, they would eventually cross. So they are not parallel. So let's take what we just learned about quadrilaterals and see if we can apply those rules to these polygons and identify them. In this first one, I see that I have parallel sides. This side and this side are the same length, and that's designated by this one single little hash mark here and one hash mark here. And these sides are the same, represented by two hash marks and two hash marks. So if I have parallel sides, two pairs of parallel sides, two different lengths, so it cannot be a square and it could not be the rhombus. And because I see acute angles and obtuse angles, I know that this one must be the parallelogram. All right, let's look at this next one. Well, this one's real quick and easy to decide because I see that they're all the same length and they have four right angles, so that one has to be a square. And beside that one, I see that I've got two pairs of parallel lines, Now, they're not the same length because I have 2 hash marks and then 1 hash mark, but I see the 4 right angles, and so that tells me that that one must be a rectangle. Next, I see that I have 2 hash marks and 1 hash mark, so I don't have the same size, lengths of sides, but I do have 4 right angles. So that would either mean a rectangle or a square, but I know it's a rectangle because all of my sides are not the same. So this one has to be another rectangle. All right, on this one, I see that this side is represented by a parallel line matching that. So they're parallel. The little arrows tell me that those would go on forever and be parallel. But that one would eventually cross that one. And I know so far the only shape that we have that does that is the trapezoid. In my last one, I see that I've got this 2 hash marks on all 4 sides. So that narrows it down to either a square or a rhombus. But I don't see right angles. This one is an acute and that one's acute, obtuse and obtuse, which means this has to be a rhombus.